All right, it's 2 p.m. Again, Phil Grigsby here with the National Weather Service in New Orleans, Baton Rouge, up here in Slidell. So we'll go ahead and dive into the briefing here. So the biggest thing to talk about that we have is that we did upgrade the extreme cold watch to an extreme cold warning this morning, and that's for the entire region. It starts Friday night at midnight, and it continues through 10 a.m. on Sunday. Additionally, for any of our marine interests that are listening in, we do have a gale warning now in effect for all of the coastal waters. That includes all of the lakes like Lake Maurepas, Lake Pontchartrain, all the sounds, and all the open Gulf waters out through our service area, which is 60 nautical miles offshore. So the biggest thing, we do have a prolonged period of dangerously cold temperatures that are going to move in this weekend. It actually looks like it could potentially be even a little bit colder than what we saw last weekend. We'll have wind chills that are going to drop into the single digits and teens, both Saturday and Sunday mornings. So when people are getting up, walking around, in the mornings, it's going to be pretty cold. And I know we have a lot of parades going on. Starting up is kind of the beginning of Mardi Gras season, carnival season. And so I know like Crew de Vue is going on down in New Orleans, and a few other bigger events are going on. And so it's going to be very, very cold Saturday evening as well. So the other issue is that the impacts are going to kind of accumulate over time because we're going to see these cold conditions, for several hours and actually for about 2 days. So, the risk to people, pets, and pipes are going to increase, especially if we get into Saturday night and Sunday morning, and obviously plants, but most of the plants are dormant at this point in time with all the cold weather we've had. And then for those folks that, are in the maritime community, we are going to have very dangerous boating conditions across all the coastal waters due to north winds of 30 to 35 knots with gusts over 40 knots and very rough seas, which I'll highlight at the end of this slide package. So the impacts, again, the 4 Ps, protect the 4 Ps, people, pets, pipes, and of course plants. Heating safety, that's a big deal. We've had a lot of fires recently with people using space heaters. So make sure that you stress that in your messaging as well. To keep those space heaters about 3 feet away from any combustibles like drapes or bedding or anything like that, and never use outdoor heating sources indoors. We don't want to have that happen. And also for boating, make sure that everybody tries to remain in port, or if they're off, out doing stuff, they seek safe harbor as these winds do begin to pick up. Anybody that's coming in, maybe they need to alter their course and find another place to dock for a while, and of course securing the vessels as well that are in port. All right, so as far as the extreme cold warning goes, this is the area. It's all our region. We do have a cold weather advisory just off to the west of us in Lake Charles's area. It looks like they're not going to see maybe quite the brunt of cold, and then there's an extreme cold watch just to the north of the Mississippi coast. But I wouldn't be surprised if Mobile upgrades that later today. So again, the biggest reason that we're putting this out is that we're going to have dangerously cold wind chills that are going to develop, that are going to range from the single digits to the lower teens. And that's really going to be the case Friday night into Saturday morning. The winds are going to back off a little bit as we get into Saturday night and Sunday morning, but the temperatures are going to be colder because of that. And I'll talk about that here in a couple of minutes. Again, so that warning takes effect midnight tomorrow night and goes through 10 a.m. Sunday morning. All right, so here's the temperature forecast themselves. I know this is what everybody likes to see because it kind of highlights what's going to go on in your specific area. So the forecast of low temperatures Friday night into Saturday morning are going to drop down into the low to mid 20s, basically along the north of the I-10-12 corridor, and the upper 20s and lower 30s south of I-10-12. But the bigger impact that night is really going to be those strong winds. So we're going to have wind chills dropping down into the single digits across parts of the North Shore and Southwest Mississippi. And then you'll have low to mid teens, basically from the 10-12 corridor all the way down to the coast. So these are bitterly cold conditions. And we advise people, and this is something you can also message, that everybody needs to wear layers, put on gloves, hats, and all that, because the risk of frostbite does increase with these extremely cold wind chills, and they're going to last for several hours. The minimum wind chills are really going to be between about 4 and 8 a.m., but we'll have some pretty chilly wind chills even starting as early as midnight, lasting through about midday All right, so Sunday, this is going to be the coldest night. We're going to see the winds drop off. They'll go from the close to 20-mile-an-hour winds that we're expecting on Saturday morning down to about 5 to 10 miles per hour by Sunday morning. But the temperatures are going to plunge because of that. So we're going to have a hard freeze in place across the entire region. We'll see lows drop down into the upper teens and lower 20s pretty much everywhere. Maybe just right along the south side of Lake Pontchartrain, you know, right there in Metro New Orleans. It might be more like low to mid 20s, but that's still going to be causing a lot of issues with pipes and hard freeze, because on Saturday, the highs are only going to get into the low to mid 30s. In fact, there's some areas north of the 10-12 corridor that may not reach freezing for a high. So we could have a really, really long extended duration of freezing temperatures. And on Saturday, even during the day with full sunshine, I want you all to be aware that we're going to have wind chills still in the mid 20s. So anybody that's going to be out and about that day still needs to layer up, bundle up, and make sure that they're safe. So as we move into Sunday morning, because the winds are going to be a little bit lighter, the wind chills are actually not going to be quite as bad, but still plenty cold. We'll be in the low to mid teens most areas, but over on the Mississippi coast, where the winds are going to be a little slightly stronger, we could see some single digits readings. So be prepared for that over there on the coast Sunday morning. Monday morning, we begin to see the warm up happen. And we're going to see a big transition next week. So I don't really highlight what's going to go on beyond Monday, because we're going to warm up. We'll actually basically go back to average, what we normally see this time of year, which is lows in the 40s and highs in the 60s, which is good news. But for first half, we got through Monday. So we're going to have another decent freeze. We're going to have lows into the mid to upper 20s along the north of the 10-12 corridor, and upper 20s and lower 30s south of that. So another night of freeze across pretty much the whole area. I wouldn't be shocked even if New Orleans does try to touch freezing that night. We have 34 right now in the city, but it could drop down to 32. You know, that's the vagaries of forecasting the weather. The good news is that the winds are going to be a lot lighter. They'll only be about 5 miles an hour Monday morning, so the wind chills are only going to be a few degrees cooler than the air temperature, mostly in the low to mid 20s along the north of I-10-12, and the upper 20s and lower 30s south of I-10-12. So not quite as cold, but still a chilly morning. You know, schools, so the kids definitely need to be prepared for that as well when they're waiting on the buses. That there's going to be a bit of a wind chill, but the good news is that we're going to warm up close to 60 by the afternoon on Monday. So here's the hours below freezing. I know y'all like to see this. This is kind of critical, especially for the pipe freezing and stuff like that. So if you look there, Friday night into Saturday morning, we're going to see, you know, 10 to 20 hours along the north of the I-10 corridor or I-10-12 corridor of below freezing conditions. And south of that, we're going to see generally on average between about 5 to 10 hours, depending on your location. At the South Shore, because of the moderation with the lake temperatures, maybe closer to 5 hours itself, but still a decent freeze. And as we all know, it only takes about 4 hours of temperatures below about 28 degrees before to have some pipe freezes begin. So going to be a concern. And then, you know, we're only going to have those highs in the low to mid 30s, especially north of 10-12. You know, portions of Southwest Mississippi and even some of the Florida parishes could stay below freezing for daytime highs on Saturday. And we'll be lucky to get into the upper 30s south, closer to the coast. I wouldn't be shocked if we just stay in the mid 30s that day, the way it's looking. Moving to Saturday night, Sunday morning, you know, again, hours below freezing. It's actually going to be the coldest night that night because the winds drop. So easily 15 to 20 hours. You know, right now we're saying about 17 in a lot of areas, but I would say 15 to 20 hours below freezing is a very good bet, especially if we don't climb above freezing on Saturday afternoon in some of those northern parts of our area. The good news is Sunday we'll finally start to see the warm up. That, you know, after that really cold start, we will manage to warm into the low to mid 40s. So it's still going to be chilly, but not quite as direly cold as what we're going to see on Saturday. And then Sunday night and Monday morning, another extensive freeze, especially along the north of the 10-12 corridor, where we'll have, you know, 10 to maybe up to 15 hours of conditions below freezing, starting, you know, as early as Sunday evening and going through about mid-morning on Monday. The good news is once you get down towards, you know, New Orleans and the coast, it doesn't look like a freeze is going to really happen there for any extensive duration. The river parishes, they'll have about 5 to 10 hours of freezing. So that's something that y'all have consider as the schools do begin to start up again on Monday. So we just want to help, please help spread the word about how cold it's going to be this weekend. Our 4 Ps, these are some good graphics that you could grab and throw out on your social media feeds as well. Definitely how to safely heat your home. We don't want to have more fires or people succumbing to carbon monoxide, so that's a big deal. And also, I just wanted to fire this off here about the dangerous boating conditions. Like I mentioned before, this is for our folks that are in the marine community that are listening, or the Coast Guard. We do have the gale warning in effect for all of our waters. This is going to be a really, probably one of the stronger wind events that we've seen in a while. We're going to have 30 to 35 knots sustained with frequent gusts up to 40 knots. I wouldn't be shocked if we have some 45 knot gusts quite often out of this. And that's going to put waves of 4 to 7 feet in the lakes and sounds. You're definitely, another thing to think about for folks that are listening from New Orleans, Lakeshore Drive there with those big waves kind of crashing in and the cold temperatures. There may be some icing conditions on that road that we might have to think about and consider, especially as we move into Sunday morning, because we're going to have an extended duration of freezing temperatures. So there may be some concerns there. And then whenever you get out into the open waters of the Gulf, out past the protected waters, 8 to 14 feet, the further out you go, the higher the waves are going to get. So it's not going to be good conditions. So, if there's any coasties listening, you might be a little busy with some water rescues as we move into the weekend if people try to get out on their boat. And again, this gale warnings from Friday evening through Saturday evening, but we're still going to have pretty rough conditions even through Sunday morning. May back off a little bit, but high-end small craft advisory. So dangerous waves, seas, strong